What's that?
Why do I hear breathing?
Hello and welcome back to another, this is not really going to be a theory video, but more of just like a cool little science thing, and I think it would be kind of fun to do more educational things. So, as many of you don't know, I am a chemistry major in college, studying to get my bachelor's, trying to pay for it. So that's kind of what these videos are going to be doing. So I'm going to take what I'm learning from my bachelor's and trying to apply it to things that I like. And so today I thought had an interesting concept of using FNAF and mixing it with chemistry, since I'm a chemistry major. And I think one of the biggest things that, FNAF has had recently that actually has to deal with chemistry is the William Afton gas experiments in dittophobia. And I thought we could play around with what could be the gas that William Afton could actually get his hands on. What are some hallucinogenic gases? And what are just some, cool little science facts that you can dig out of just something that seems completely ridiculous, and could it actually be used in a fashion that could actually, create a nightmare animatronic or something scary? What is the William Afton gas experiments? Like, you've never opened the book, you have no idea what I'm talking about. In the story Dittophobia, William Afton in the FNAF 4 house has these animatronic mannequins on like guardrails, if I'm not mistaken, and will run them across to get kids anxious, scared, so that he could have them the most anxious when he goes to kill them, to have the most remnant, if my memory is serving me correctly. And so he uses gases to kind of portray the illusion of there's an actual scary animatronic there, and that's how we get the nightmare animatronics. And you have some theories of the sister location with the oxygen tanks that are in the bottom, and some other kind of things. And we're gonna harp on those things later and talk about were those the oxygen tanks that were being used and whatnot. So jumping into the big pile of messy clothes that are on the floor, what are some hallucinogenic gases? And I think when you type into Google, the first one that's going to pop up is this one right here. That is nitrous oxide. Nitrous oxide is N2O. AKA, all that means is there's two nitrogens and one oxygen. Basically, nitrous oxide is laughing gas. If you don't know what laughing gas is, it basically is used in the medical field to kind of put you to sleep. It's a relaxer. It just kind of allows your brain to kind of calm down. It's used in the famous drug, that's on the street, galaxy gas, that you saw everyone have that, like taking 15 galaxy gases all at once. That was used there. So nitrous oxide is used in a lot of different things. It is a very cool and important gas that we have. And how it works is the oxygen off the nitrogens will just detach. It'll go join a hydrogen or two hydrogens and create water, or it will just stay in your brain and stays with the nitrogen as the nitrogen goes off and does its own thing and kind of calms the brain down, because it's, the brain is now attaching itself to an oxygen. It's trying to create a reaction that it typically isn't. And since the oxygen's not really necessarily happy because it only has one bond, oxygen, for all my orgo-chem people out there, oxygen wants two bonds. And in nitrous oxide, it only has one. So that oxygen is dying to get attached to something. Typically, it'll just go get attached to a hydrogen, or it may already have hydrogen attached on it. But typically, it wants that one more, which then would leave nitrogen and nitrogen. So once the oxygen leaves to go do its own little fun thing, you are left with two nitrogens. And those two nitrogens are the thing that makes your brain happy. It calms it down, puts you to sleep, or it makes you giggle, because that's what it's doing. It's relaxing those muscles, and it is just causing your body to kind of just do whatever. So, what is, nitrous oxide is used in typically 2 things at most. When you are in labor and giving childbirth, and it is also used in trauma care. It calms the anxious feelings, it allows you to talk a little bit more freely, and it kind of just is a nice building block and has a lot of good uses. But the reason why it's used in galaxy gas is it's got a lot of good uses, and it comes kind of close to how alcohol kind of works. Not in the same way where it makes you delirious, but it's a nice relaxer, and it keeps your brain from, it makes your brain calm. There is one dangerous thing with laughing gas, and this is going to cover, we're going to use this word a lot here later on, is asphyxia. Asphyxia is the lack of oxygen in your brain. Now you might be asking, okay, Lando, you just said that, nitrogen gas or nitrous oxide has an oxygen and it goes off somewhere, but the 2 nitrogens stay each other because they want 3 bonds, and they both have 3 bonds, and now they're happy. Nitrogen doesn't want to attach to anything else, and you'd be correct. And that's where kind of this theory, using nitrous oxide for the William Afton experiments, kind of derails. So if you were using laughing gas to make a hallucination appear, you would need a good bit of it. You would need a lot of nitrogen in your brain to start actually seeing things, as the nitrogen is taking up the space for the oxygen in your brain. Since you're probably breathing that oxygen back out in CO2, is it getting attached to a carbon at that point, or it's just the nitrogen's filling up so much in your brain? And now all my other science majors, my bio people, my med students, do correct me if I'm wrong, but the nitrogen in your brain starts taking up space where oxygen should be, and you start seeing things because your brain isn't working properly. But nitrogen also doesn't weigh as much as you probably think, and that's going to be a key thing we go over later with another gas that I have. So you kind of get in this weird situation of, what if I was a child in that room being gas poured into me? That sounds weird. Back up. Imagine yourself in that scenario and laughing gas coming in. Would you necessarily be going checking each door? If your body's calm, nice, you would probably go to sleep before you really start seeing anything crazy, especially when you're that small. So nitrous oxide doesn't really seem like it's the hallucinogenic gas that William Afton probably used, even though it would probably be the easiest to get his hands on. There's actually one other gas that William Afton probably used to create hallucinations, and it also has a backing within the games, which I think is really cool. And that gas is xenon. That's how I pronounce it. I know that's probably wrong. If any of my other fellow science people know xenon as, Xe, it's the noble gas. Now, why do I think that William Afton probably used xenon as the hallucinogenic gas? Well, in FNAF 4, when you turn to go get the Freddles, so you turn, you know how FNAF 4 works, you have the pills in the IV. Now, that probably means you're in the hospital. Whoever we're playing as is in the hospital. For a long time, it was theorized as, it's the crying child in a coma after his frontal lobe got bitten off. That's the more in the game. Like, if you're just playing the games, that's probably what happened. But you have that IV and the pills. So you're in the hospital. Now, if you don't know what xenon is typically used for, it's typically used in, X-rays, medical imaging. It is used as an imprint. It shoots that beam of the gas through a very thin kind of point to get an image. And it will print out an image of whatever you're scanning. Highly dangerous. Only professionals use it because of what it can do if it is inhaled. So, nitrous oxide is a reactant. Xenon is not. So, if you don't know, noble gases typically do not like to attach itself to anything because its electron field is full. It is happy, it is content to be by itself. Unlike Nitrogen, who wants to have 3 other things with it. Typically, it's bonded to itself 3 times, or it's, with some other compound. Oxygen, why do you think we have H2O? Because the oxygen wants 2 hydrogens, because 2 bonds for oxygen makes it happy. Carbon 4, etc. That's all organic chem stuff. I'm not going to go too deep into that. But xenon likes to be happy by itself. So if you are breathing xenon in, it is staying in, and it's not going anywhere. There's also one other fun fact about xenon, and that is it was used in sports back in the day for stamina boosting. It promoted red blood cells. It got you up. It got you hyper. It got you ready to go. It reproduced muscle stimulants. It was the basically doping back in the day. That's what it did. Being said, xenon, typically, you can't really get it that easily. I'm sure you could buy a very diluted thing of xenon that has been gone through multiple things. But back in the day, if we're, let's say FNAF 4 happens in 1983, you probably could have just walked in the hospital and took a canister of xenon out of whatever, and just yoink. Now I've got xenon. I'm just taking it from my child's hospital. I'm just pulling it from here. I'm just pulling it from here. And so William Afton, as his kid is in the hospital, probably just got tanks and tanks of xenon, which, Scott definitely did not think any of this through. Whoever wrote Dittophobia, I'm sorry for the author, did not think this through, as it just is hallucinogenic gas. But it's fun to, theorize throughout random things and give you a little scientific in-thought of what could have been causing these hallucinations. But how does xenon actually cause the hallucination? So we got how he could probably get his hands on xenon, but where could he potentially, why does it do this? So your brain typically, it's in your noggin. It's pretty still, your brain is connected to your nervous system that runs down your back. It's in your hands, it's in your feet, it's everywhere. Xenon just starts taking up that space in your brain. Just starts getting full and full, and it starts pushing things out. Now, why does it do that? Because it weighs a ton. Now, you might be thinking, Lando, a gas weighs a ton? That doesn't make any sense. Why would it weigh a ton if it is a gas? How does that work? So oxygen is probably the size, let's say oxygen's the size of a penny. Xenon is probably the size of this cap. It is massive compared to oxygen. So imagine, you've got tons of pennies in your brain. You're all happy. They fit all compact. And then all of a sudden you shove something of this size into your brain. Where does that oxygen go? It kind of just gets shoved out through your mouth, through your nose, anywhere. So, could fart it out. Anyway, that will start to turn off your nervous system. Your nervous system begins to just tweak out. It's getting all antsy. Your body can't really handle it. It's not relaxing your muscles because it's trying to, push itself further because it wants oxygen. Your brain physically is starting to deactivate, and all of a sudden you'll start seeing hallucinations. Now, why is that? Because you're now all, if I am completely wrong, med students, please tell me down below that I am wrong on this. But your brain stops receiving light signals from your eyes, and so then it starts picking things apart. And if you've got a giant mannequin, your brain's going to try and find what it's actually trying to see. And so if you've been seeing Freddy Fazbear all day, Freddy Fazbear is now about to appear in your room. A big example of this is sleep paralysis. When you're, why do you see things when your body can't move, your eyes aren't open because you're not fully awake? So your lucid dream, when you're in deep REM sleep, is starting to cross over into the real world because your body hasn't woken up yet. It is still in REM sleep with your eyes open. That is why you start seeing things, and when you have so much Xeon in your brain and you're not gaining any of that light receptors are doing that, your body's basically in REM sleep and you're starting to see hallucinations. So that's why I believe, and we go back to asphyxia, the lack of oxygen just begins to take over, and now you have that bowling ball just in a pool of water of Xeon in your brain and can't react to it, can't do anything. And so we have a cause of how William Afton could get the gas, what the gas actually does, and probably what he did. Another fun thing about Xeon is Xeon is actually used in projectors. It's the best showing gas. So when you're shooting that light through, typically goes through a small Xeon like little film tray, and it allows the light to pierce and project pretty much to anything, almost like glass, but it allows it to refract the light more and spread to have a clearer picture. And typically the bigger Xeon little bubble inside the projector, the better the picture quality. It's why projectors are a little bit more expensive, because it's got that Xeon little piece in there. It's not too big, it's small, but it's there. There is one more gas we can talk about. This one's kind of more of just probably what this was based off of, and probably like the actual true gas that this is. I would just like talking about Xeon because I'm a chemist. I'm going to study that periodic table the entire time. And there's not really a lot of chemistry here outside of just it's a fun tale to tell. And if we also don't know if it's really real, but this kind of mimics the story, and I think this is what the story took inspiration off of, is the Russian sleep experiments. We have no idea what gas they used. It wasn't laughing gas, and it wasn't Xeon, because Xeon would have killed you within, the first 3 days of the experiment, especially at the high quality amounts that these Russians were getting at the time, or whoever were getting these sleep experiments done to them. But the Russian sleep experiments, if you've done any research on your own, was a hallucinogenic gas that, derailed the amount of oxygen in your brain quickly, but it didn't fill your brain up with anything else. Xeon fills your brain and puts basically a bowling ball inside your brain, while the Russian laugh experiment just took things out of your brain, causing it to want more. And since your body's trying to get, it's, keeping you up, it's keeping you active, but it's not killing you. It's not doing anything. It's just keeping you moving. And so it causes your nervous system to fail, causing you to see things because your eyes can't properly receive, or your eyes are not getting to your brain as soon as possible. So that's where those hallucinations come from. Now, biomajors, completely tell me if I'm wrong at that. Now, it could have been the Russian sleep experiment, but I personally don't think it's the exact hallucinogenic gas, since that keeps you up and it boosts you, and it's the whole purpose of that sleep experiment was to see how long you could go without sleeping. And I'm sure these kids who were in William Afton's house trapped having a gas experiment done to them probably slept, maybe not at night, but if they did, then they slept probably during the day, or they went back home, slept. Who knows what happened? It's a theory for a reason, it's a story for a reason, it's all make-believe. But it's fun to talk about the real-life implications of it, and it's fun, and I get to use, my chemistry background and my love for games like FNAF. If y'all like this content, please tell me, comment down below. We would like to see more of this, or if you want me to go back to traditional just theory videos or any sort of stuff. I personally love doing these. I would love to talk about, the physics behind an actual, fully functional robot, or the chemical compound of Choco Mountain or something. I don't even know. There's a ton of stuff that I could talk about, like what would be the combustion of a dragon, like Bowser breathing fire. I think are a cool couple ideas that could really be fun to talk about. So if you like this content, please comment down below. I'm trying to continue my field of work and want to continue to teach chemistry to people who don't know, and see how cool chemistry actually is and when it's applied into fun situations like this. So I hope you all enjoyed. Please leave a like and subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.